Hey Gemini, welcome to Aria Moon Tarot, and thank you so much for being here. This is your love reading. For anyone with Sun, Moon, or Rising in Gemini, it's a general reading, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't. If it doesn't, check your other placements. All right, let's get started. So to begin with, I do want to talk a little bit about the necklace that you were drawn to, because pearls are such a beautiful symbol of faith and of dedication, and I feel like that's really important to note. Pearls take a long time to form, to cultivate, and I really do always feel like there's an element of surprise when it comes to pearls as well. There's kind of the energy that it is something that's been cultivated over time, and that there's been a lot of care put into this, but it's still unexpected. There's still a surprise. It's still a joy. It's like a gift. It's like a special gift. A pearl is like a special gift, and it does kind of hold this this water energy with it as well. As the saying goes, because this is always something that comes to mind, pearls of wisdom. So I do want to note that pearls are a symbol of and a representation of inner wisdom and the wisdom that we're cultivating within ourselves. Even the amount of time that it takes to cultivate that wisdom, because there is time and dedication, like we were talking about in the formation of a pearl. So I feel like this person's higher self is displaying a lot of wisdom and a lot of understanding when it comes to this connection already, which is helpful because we're channeling messages from this person's higher self. So hopefully we can get some helpful nuggets here. There's a lot of wisdom and understanding, and I also feel like part of this person, I feel that this person's higher self, like I'm already channeling this energy. There's a feeling that their higher self is coming through to let you know that there's some amount of faith, there's some amount of promise that they're still holding on to when it comes to this connection. So they have not lost faith. And in some ways, they might not have even stopped working on it. And for some of you, that's important to know right off, because you might be in a situation where you feel like this person may have given up. You feel like this person's not putting in the work, or they're not saying the right things, they're not doing the right things. Things might not be working out, and you wonder if they are in it for the long haul. I feel like their higher self is saying yes. We're going to dig into that a little bit more, because we don't know how this person's behaving on a surface level, so we're going to look at that. I am going to break with tradition and do something I never do, and I'm not flipping this card over. I shouldn't say never. I rarely do it. I rarely leave this card a mystery, but I'm going to leave this card a mystery right now. I'm going to flip this card later on in your reading. We're going to use this as a little bit of advice or guidance when it comes to this connection, or some sort of insight. We'll see how the message comes through. We're not going to look at it. Suspense. I'm all about the suspense. Let's begin with some animal spirit messages, and the first thing I want to look at is how this person is behaving on a surface level, or how this person comes through on a surface level. I find this so interesting to look at through the perspective of their higher self, because their higher self can really see them for who they are, for what they're doing, for what their patterns are, and things like that, that on a surface level sometimes we cannot see in ourselves. So we're going to look at how this person presents on a surface level from the perspective of their higher self. Let's look at that surface level energy, and then we're going to look at the energy of the higher self. So we have the crow. Very interesting. Very interesting. There's something like really magical and connected about crow energy. This is the energy that's representing the unseen, representing the unknown. In a lot of ways, it represents something mysterious. This person might present as somebody who is very creative. Even if they're not artistic per se, it's like they might be extremely imaginative, is how this is coming through. Or they have a lot of vision. They even maybe have clear vision, which to me, especially with this crow energy, is a reference to clairvoyance. So this could be somebody who is spiritually and psychically gifted. Maybe even someone who's not aware of that. I feel like what their higher self is pointing to here, this is actually very interesting. Kind of trippy as I'm delving into this this energy. Their higher self is showing them as somebody who is extremely connected, someone who's very intuitive, someone who might be very spiritually gifted, very artistic, and some of this stuff might not be something that's known to them. It might not be something that they've fully leaned into, but this also, because this is surface level energy, can be what you see on the surface of this person. So this could be somebody who is very, very spiritual or very esoteric, and they like to have like deep conversations, but this could also be someone that isn't really aware of all of this, and might not know how to manage all of this, is how it's coming through. For some of you, I feel like this person might have shared a vision with you, as we're talking about this clear vision that this person has. So this is surface level energy. I feel like for some of you, this is something the two of you interacted on. This is a shared vision between the two of you, something that you agreed on, something that you both saw the potential in, and kind of a vision for where this connection was going. So it is interesting that that's showing up on a surface level. This could literally be something that the two of you discussed and planned, because it is on that level. And there's a message coming through about something being within your grasp. Okay. I was talking to number one about this. Channeling the energy of the higher self is a little bit, I won't say that it's challenging, but there is a lot to decipher, because what's interesting about this is the higher self can see things from a higher, literally a higher perspective. They can see all of the triggers, they can see all of the things, and to hear the information coming from the higher self, it's like it's more true, but there are layers to it. There's more layers to it, because they can see how your person might be acting or behaving that isn't in alignment with their highest self. So I feel like your person's higher self is talking about, on a surface level, this person's thinking a lot about something that was within their grasp, something that they might have let slip away. So if this is about a plan that you had with this person, or it's coming through as a near miss, and I don't really know how that relates to you, but this could be a connection that almost went somewhere, and it never really could get going. Something that there was a lot of potential in, something where there was a definite plan. It was right there. It was for the taking. And I feel like on a surface level, it's like this person knows that, and they might kick themselves for that. They might beat themselves up about that. They might often go back to the thoughts of this thing that they were so close to having, or this thing that they did have within their grasp, and then it slipped away. A vision. I feel like even for those of you where this connection is firmly intact, there might be some sort of vision that they feel slipped away from this. Some plan that you had that they just, it's like, we didn't execute that, or I didn't do what it takes to execute on that plan. Very interesting. This is also coming through as worry that something may have slipped away. So part of them is still holding on to that vision. I'm really wondering if for some of you, they've told you that they're still holding on to this vision. Yes, with that pearl energy. There's something here for you guys about faith, about the time that it takes to really cultivate something, and that they have not lost faith here. They're still holding on to that. They're still holding on to hope. We can look at this crow, and this little ball of energy here that the crow is holding on to. It can represent so many things. It can represent like the world. It can represent a vision. It can represent a spark of creativity. And this is still within this crow's grasp. But you see, it's not exactly what the crow's focusing on. It's just something that they're still holding on to. So this might be that this person has had to turn their attention away from the connection for a period of time, or life circumstances have pulled their attention away. And it might look on the surface that they aren't engaged, but that's not the case. They're still holding on to something. Very, very interesting here. Yeah, I feel like there's spiritual gifts at play here that this person isn't aware of, that keeps coming up. Their higher self is drawing attention toward that, and that might be something that they're working on. And I feel like this person, what's interesting about this is, to look at a surface level and to have this much awareness is very different than what I expected. So their higher self is actually saying that their 3D self is very much aware. They are very aware of how this connection has affected them, how it has inspired them, the depth of the connection. I feel like it's about the strength of this connection too. It's like they're very aware, although it was shocking, although it was surprising, although it was maybe a little bit out of place, it's not lost on them what's happening here. So there is kind of this feeling of mystery that's connected to the crow. But there's also, with the crow energy, this sense of knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt. Knowing the truth and feeling the truth about something. And I feel like that's relevant in this connection. Things may be a mystery. They may still be figuring things out. But there's so much connectedness here. There's so much wisdom. There's so much intuition here. At a surface level with this person, that it's like they're way more tapped in than you might realize. Or this is something that you know about them, because it's hard to ignore, it's hard to escape. But the depth of this connection has not been lost on them. There is a mysterious energy. I feel like this mysterious energy can represent dynamics on both sides of this connection. So this can mean that there could be a lot of unanswered questions here. And I feel like these unanswered questions are things that this person is aware of, things that they're holding on to, things that they are maybe even sometimes holding on to the answer of, not communicating, not releasing that answer. And an awakening of spiritual gifts and kind of like a deeper spiritual connection as a result of this relationship. These are things that are coming through on a surface level. Very interesting. I would have to say that this person is deeply, deeply aware of the effect this connection has had on them. Even if they don't fully understand it, because I feel like that's where the mystery is. They might not fully understand how this connection has affected them this way, or how this could even be possible. But there's definitely the sense that they know. They're aware. They are not oblivious to this. I want to get the energy of the higher self. Interesting, because I would expect that crow energy to be higher self energy. This person's super tapped in. We have the whale. So we're dealing with air energy here and water energy. The whale is a huge indication of desire to delve deeper, especially when this comes to our emotions, because this is a water sign energy. So Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio energy here. And then we had air with the crow. So Aquarius, Gemini, Libra energy with that. This person's higher self is, I almost want to say, encouraging them to look deeper into the emotions that this connection has triggered in them. And it's interesting because I feel like that might be a common thread here. I saw energy like that in reading 1. But what's different here is I feel like the awareness on a surface level for this person is so much more intense. So then there is this urge, or this push to really look at the emotions that were triggered. So this person might tend to be pretty analytical on the surface. We're dealing with this air sign energy. They might be kind of factual about a lot of things. They might tend to want to make sense of things or to rationalize things. And I feel like they could have even tried to avoid the things that they feel a little uncomfortable with, or the things that they don't fully understand. It's just so interesting because I feel like there is a mystery here. I feel like their higher self is pointing to the fact that their 3D self understands this connection, understands the depth of this connection, and at the same time doesn't really understand why or how, hasn't made sense of all of that, but can't deny it at the same time. This is making me think of, like, if someone, let's say that someone saw a ghost or had some sort of spiritual experience that they literally could not deny. Their senses would not allow them to deny it. It's like, I saw that and I can't unsee it. I saw that over there. I don't understand how that's possible. I don't understand how I was able to see that, how I was able to pick up on that, but I did. And it's like, I feel like that's how this person is feeling. That's what their higher self is kind of referencing here. This undeniability, and at the same time, this complete lack of understanding about how this is so undeniably true for them. Very interesting energy. This person, I have to say that this is something that I'm actually, as I'm looking at this, I'm kind of swimming around in this. I'm finding this to be very admirable energy here. So even if your person doesn't fully understand what has been awakened in them as a result of this connection, even if there's feelings kind of swirling around inside of them that they can't fully classify, because I feel like this is somebody who wants to classify things. They want to make sense of things, and they also accept at the same time what they don't understand right now. So it's like they're not really pushing the mystery of this completely away. I kind of see them holding on to this little nugget of wisdom, or holding on to this idea, holding on to this feeling that's been triggered in them, or holding on to something that's been shown to them until they can understand it better. Because it's like, even if they don't fully understand it, they do understand that there's significance to what they've experienced in this connection. This person's very aware. Maybe, I feel like for a lot of you, they are way more aware than they let on sometimes. And if this is somebody who can remain kind of a shrouded mystery, because that's how they're coming through, there's some part of them that's mysterious, some part of them that isn't fully understood by you, and that could be that you just don't have all the facts. This could be somebody that maybe you don't know every little detail about, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, because there's so many messages, and there's so much to try to understand with this. I just feel like even the parts of this that are mysterious to them, the significance is not. And the desire to understand more, and almost the dedication to do that, is there. Yeah, this person, I think I know where I was going with that. I think it's that they might not seem like they're as aware as they are for some of you, but really there's a lot going on beneath the surface. And I feel like this person's higher self is kind of playing the role of pushing them to take that deep dive into understanding this, which, because this is whale energy and this is water energy, a lot of that has to do with emotions. So understanding the emotions behind this. Both the whale and the crow represent deep and profound wisdom. And we were talking about that with the pearl. That it's so weird. Pearls of wisdom. So these are both representations of wisdom, and of psychic abilities. Both of these animals represent psychic abilities. So there's a lot going on here in terms of realization that's happening both on a surface level and in those higher, more evolved realms that we're referring to as the higher self in this reading. So there's a lot going on there. And what's interesting to me is this isn't just happening on the level of the higher self. This is actual 3D, like, work realizations and questioning and seeing. Like, this person sees. This person is seeing what's here. There's also a message coming through for some of you. There might be a musical tie to this connection. There might be a musical tie. This person's higher self is talking about them receiving on a surface level guidance about this relationship through song lyrics, maybe through poetry. And this could be either them connecting with music or poetry that they that they hear, that they consume. But this could also be about kind of a purging of emotion for this person. So this might be that they release their emotion, or they sift through their emotions by writing poetry or by writing music. This could even have to do with you for some of you. This could be about a song that you wrote that's helping them to connect or helping them to understand. So that's a message for some of you. The most important thing I'm seeing here with this whale energy is that it represents the desire to heal and to stabilize emotions. And that's also the energy of, like, not being afraid to conquer deep emotional issues. So this person's higher self is really focused on uncovering and understanding what's changing on an emotional level. But honestly, that's happening on a surface level for this person too, which I find really interesting, because it's just not what I expected to see. I'm going to kind of connect this energy together to see what's going on. What is going on between this energy of the higher self and of the 3D self? I feel like saying again and just reiterating because it's so interesting. This person, I feel like their higher self is merging with their 3D self on a really deep level here, and like more than what I have seen before. So we have Talisman, we have card 49. Okay. Wow. This Talisman energy is again about wisdom. It's about kind of having the wisdom to allow the lessons that you've learned to guide you and to inform your decisions so that you don't kind of end up in the same place or end up falling into the same traps just over and over and over again. It's kind of that, like, their higher self is like over and over and over again. Like, that's a very important note. So this could be patterns that this person has repeated a lot throughout their life. That it's like they're in the process of uncovering these patterns and figuring out where to go from here and how to avoid these traps. So this card tells us that we have the wisdom and the experience to make the right choice, to make a better choice. One that aligns with our highest good. I feel like that's very, very relevant here, talking about this crow energy being on the surface level. This person is very wise on a surface level. They don't necessarily have to rely on their like higher self completely in order to have a higher perspective. They kind of come with this energy on their own. They're very reflective and they have tapped into a lot of wisdom and knowledge. So I feel like they are in the process of integrating the lessons that they've learned and trying to figure out how to not make the same mistakes again. And I do feel kind of this reserved energy and this, like, we were talking about the pearl taking time to cultivate and it being a little bit of a surprise. It's like this person's taking the time that is needed for them to fully make sense of all of this, for them to fully analyze the situation. There's that analytical energy again, to fully analyze the situation and to figure out where are the traps, where have I made the same mistake before. What's interesting about Talisman energy is I feel like this is going back to like years and years ago, but talismans for me have always represented more of something that's going to draw something towards you. I think a lot of times people associate talismans with protection, and for me that's more of an amulet energy. So I do feel like there's a message here that maybe only I can understand, but I can decipher it for you because this references something that I learned a long time ago, or something that kind of like formed a foundational basis for me. So a talisman always, to me, is more representative of something that we want to maybe wear or hold with us that's going to draw the energy toward us that we want. And this is very indicative of what's going on with this person, because this person is wanting to draw more of what they want into their life, wanting to take the time to cultivate more of what they want and figure out where they're holding themselves back from experiencing that. So just taking that time and using that wisdom, using that experience to figure out how to move forward. Let's get some tarot and see what's going on. Get some messages from your person's higher self. So channeled messages. Oh, okay. And the cards spun around a few times. We have the Six of Pentacles. Yeah. What else? I feel like with the Six of Pentacles, we're always evaluating. What are we giving? What are we receiving? And I just feel like that's that same energy. That's wisdom there. Sometimes we use that energy to figure out what we're giving and receiving within relationships, but it's also just a very wise thing to do when looking at your life in general. Like, what am I giving to this? What am I getting in return? What energy am I putting in, and what results has it gotten me in the past? That's part of that understanding and using your wisdom, using that knowledge, using your experience to inform your decisions going forward. We have the Moon. This card showed up as bottom of the deck energy in reading 1. Very, very similar to Crow energy. The Moon represents a lot to be discovered. So a lot of wisdom beneath the surface here, a lot to be uncovered, sometimes things that we didn't want to look at, things we don't want to deal with, we don't want to face. So you had the Strength card come out, the Ace of Swords. Wow. I feel like this person is tapping into a lot of, I feel like their higher power. It's that feeling I was having before of, it's almost like they're merging with their higher self in some way. So they're becoming more tapped in, more tuned in, more intuitive, receiving more messages, uncovering more information about how they're moving through life, how they're operating in life, what they're drawing toward them, what they've been giving in this relationship. So it's like their higher self is kind of questioning, was I giving what I was supposed to? Was I falling into my same old traps? Was I letting fear lead the way? Was I letting these things that are unknown to me, or things I wished to remain unknown to me, was I letting that run the show? And how do I tap into this inner strength, this inner will to create the results that I want in my life? Ace of Swords energy, new ideas, mental clarity. I feel like this crow is all about mental clarity, but for this person, their higher self is drawing attention to the fact that they're gaining clarity on a spiritual level especially. And some of this does have to do with their analytical side, or they're running it through their analytical perspective, this spiritual knowledge that they're gaining. But there's also kind of this feeling of like they are incorporating this more spiritual side of them. They're incorporating this knowledge or these intuitive hits that they're getting about things, because I think for a lot of you, this person is getting a lot of messages. They're receiving a lot of intuitive messages, and it's almost like they're collecting these messages to figure out how to assemble this situation or this life or their action plan, how to assemble all of this. I feel like their higher self is saying that they want to move from a very informed place. They want to move from a very wise place. They want to make wise decisions now. And they're wondering, have they? Have they in the past? Has what they've done been wise? Has it been conducive to whatever it is that they want to create here? Have they been looking where they should have been looking? I'm going to look at the bottom of the deck. Queen of Cups. I really feel like, and I really think that card came out in reading 1 too. So interesting. There's this emotional tie. There's this desire to connect with this emotional being here and to use this more emotional energy. So I do think that you are being represented as this Queen of Cups in this reading here. And there's kind of this desire to evaluate, to look at this dream or this vision that they're holding on to in relation to this Queen of Cups. But also in this context, I'm feeling like this Queen of Cups is something that they're aspiring to as well. This emotional understanding and this emotional availability is something that they're aspiring to. 5 of Swords underneath that. Yes, the 5 of Swords underneath that Queen of Cups. The 5 of Swords can talk a lot about conflict. It can talk a lot about being consumed with the ego. I think this is starting to make even more sense to me. I think the reason that this person's surface level energy is so deep, it's this crow energy, and there's a lot of depth to that. I feel like the reason that it's coming through that way is because this is about dropping the ego here. 6 of Swords energy. This is about dropping the ego, the world under that. A lot of similar energies as reading 1. This transitional energy, this moving on to a new phase. 6 of Swords is about moving on from something. Even in this card, there's the moon here in the background. So this is really pointing to the emotional issues that were holding them back. The things that they were afraid to look at. The things that scared them. The things that triggered them. And there's this feeling of walking away from that, walking away and kind of evaluating, what am I left with if I leave that behind? Because there's this part of me that's been so reliant on that, that's been so reliant on my story, on my experiences, on my hurt, my pain, on my patterns, on my habits. And it's like, if I leave all of that behind, what do I have left? Did I win? Did I lose? And it's like, I feel like this their higher self is saying that walking away from a lot of this stuff, walking away from these patterns of thought, is beneficial here. And it's what has them in this very wisdom hungry energy, this energy of really wanting to understand things. And this is definitely coming through on an emotional level, which has been a theme here in these readings. Wanting to understand this emotional energy, wanting to walk away from what's not working anymore, wanting to take those lessons with them too. This the Six of Swords energy is always about, like, let's bring along what we learned, but let's move forward in a different direction. Those swords represent the knowledge that we have, represent the experiences, the lessons we've learned. And that's all about wisdom. This is a boat full of wisdom here with the Six of Swords. And I'm getting almost the same energy with the Five of Swords too. It's like, you know, maybe these situations didn't work out for me in the past, but that doesn't mean I can't move forward. Let me gather what I can. Let me gather the experience. Let me gather the knowledge. Let me think about this a little bit and then figure out how I'm going to be moving forward and what I'm going to be drawing into my life and how I'm going to be tapping into these emotions. So that's what's happening on a higher level. This is what your person's higher self is dealing with, is exploring how to use these experiences to cultivate more of what they want in their life. How to use that knowledge, how to use that wisdom. Let's see, what do I want to do now? We can get some more, let's get some channeled messages from this Messengers of the Heart. Is this Messengers of the Heart? Yeah, Messengers of the Heart deck. Messages from their higher self, please. Wow, we got a message right away with that. Haunted. Let me just pause for a minute, because their higher self, or their guides, they were showing me the image of the ghost. I've seen this. I can't unsee it. I can't explain it, but I did see it, and I'm not denying it. That energy, and that's exactly what we have here. That energy of seeing this thing. You might not be able to fully understand, fully grasp it. Like, you literally cannot reach out and grasp this this spirit that's being shown here, but it is something that is undeniably right in front of your face. So this card actually says, their vivid dreams haunt them. They dream of how they broke your heart and you moving on with someone else. So if this is something that has ended, this person's haunted by their memories of this. They're haunted by, again, we're talking about the lessons that this person could have learned. They're trying to figure out how to learn what they needed to learn from this and how to move forward with those lessons. I do feel like there's this element of them being haunted. Can't forget, still holding on. That's been a recurring theme throughout this reading. They're still holding on to something. They're still holding on to the dream, to the hope. Separation, yeah. So for a lot of you, this is a connection that's in separation, and this card says that they're focusing on their own personal journey and choosing not to focus on love because there's nothing to give. Yeah, I was picking up on that energy with the crow. There's this energy of wanting to kind of like hold back, wanting to understand things more, wanting to search for that wisdom. We have guarded, so they're still guarded. They're trapped behind their own emotional defenses. There's this hunger for information. I feel like pulling some more messages for you. Let's see. I feel like this, like with the whale energy, this desire for them to get deeper into this, their emotions, and to understand these patterns, understand what's been going on. It does have them a little guarded, and I feel like that's why their higher self wants to explore. Because once they understand these things a little bit more, once they see why they've been feeling like this, they can really they can just tap into and live with that energy a little bit more. Sorry about that little explosion of cards. Let's see what we have. I'm not going to take these that didn't flip. It's actually just way too many cards. Let me see if I can get one message for you, because it's just, that's unclear. Wow. When your cards come out, they really come out. So let's see what we have. We have Beauty and Grace, which actually did come out This card was in that whole pile of cards. So I guess this was the card that was meant to come out. They find you extremely beautiful, but your beauty intimidates them and they think someone else is more deserving. Wow. That's part of diving deeper into those emotional issues, because that's an emotional issue there. That's something that I think they want to figure out a little bit more. Why do they feel like that? Why do they feel that they aren't deserving of this love, of your beauty, of this beautiful connection? Why do they feel that way? And at the same time, I think this is why it's important that there's that hope, there's that vision that they're still holding on to. So I can see where there's a little bit of conflict here, and this is something that like their higher self is fully aware of. There's a conflict because they feel undeserving of this connection, and at the same time, they can't let it go. They can't really understand it, but they won't deny it either. I never meant to hurt you. We did have separation too. So some of you might be in separation and this person may have done something to hurt you. I feel like for some of you that message is maybe the fact that you are separated from this person, or the fact that this person pulled back is what they're referring to there. They don't mean to cause you any pain or any hurt by pulling back and trying to understand themselves. And they understand that that might be confusing for you and it might be hurtful for you, but at the same time, they want to understand. They want this wisdom. They want to be able to file away all of this information and use it for, like, be able to tap into this place of wisdom to make their decisions here. I'm in analysis paralysis over this connection. We were talking about that. My goodness, that analytical energy. I'm going to pull one more message for you. That analytical energy, I feel like it gets them every time. And especially with them trying to reconcile some of their more, I feel like both of these messages were for you. I'm still learning a lot about myself. I feel like that showed up in reading one as well. Yeah, exactly. They are still learning. They're gathering all of these nuggets of wisdom and trying to figure out how to compile them. What I was saying is I feel like what could be challenging for this person is they are very analytical. They're very factual. They want to make sense of things. But at the same time, they're trying to run maybe some of these more emotional feelings or some of these more unexplainable things through this filter of logic. And it doesn't always work for them. It does put them in analysis paralysis because it's hard to know how to move forward when you can't quite reconcile the information. This message says, this connection makes me feel out of control, which I can totally see for somebody who wants to make sense of things. That feeling of being haunted, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense a lot of the time. So I want to end your reading by pulling some, I've got an entire bowl of goodies. So we've got letters, we've got numbers, we've got signs, and some timing information. So a lot of times when I'm tapping into, when I'm channeling the energy of the higher self especially, I feel like everything comes through as symbols. Everything comes through a little bit more vague. So some of these messages might make sense to you. They might help tie things together or kind of hit the nail on the head for you. And some of these messages you won't understand at all. So we'll just see what comes through, and we'll see if any of these are representative of your connection or something that you can look out for regarding this connection. So that could be a reference to that. Like they're picking up on messages and learning a lot through music, or they're working in music or something like that. So interesting. Take whatever messages resonate when it comes to this kind of thing, because it's obviously not going to resonate for everybody, but there could be an initial or something for you to keep in mind here. So it is always very interesting to do. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting me read your cards, letting me channel this energy. It is a roller coaster. So I hope that you were able to get some important messages, some guidance about this No, this is not over, you guys. We never flipped your card. I covered your card up. Hold on. I was about to end your reading. This card I was going to look at in terms of guidance. And when I said that, I'm like, wait, I never flipped your card. So this says adjustments are required. This is third quarter moon. I actually really love this energy. And here we have, again, another like kind of dark, moody moon-like setting. We were seeing that with the Six of Swords. We were seeing that with the moon card itself. So there's a lot that is still being uncovered for this person. And I feel like this message is, it's a little bit of encouragement in terms of this connection, but I also think that this is what this person is realizing. This person is starting to see on a surface 3D level, which is very encouraging, because a lot of times this is only happening on the level of the higher self, but even on a surface 3D level, they're starting to see changes need to be made. I want to approach these situations differently than I have in the past. I want to do things differently. I want to learn from my mistakes. I want to learn from these lessons that have been thrown into my life. I want to understand why I act the way that I do, why I'm triggered by these things, why I might even stand in the way of a vision that I have. So it's like they are in the process of making these adjustments, and they see it for themselves, and it's actually very beautiful. And like I was saying, admirable energy. This is the energy of somebody who's really trying to figure stuff out, because what's showing up on the surface level for them is very profound, and I enjoyed seeing that. So yes, I am now going to end your reading. Now that we have actually flipped your card, that would have been a shame. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, being patient with me. And yeah, if you enjoyed this reading, if you got any messages, if something resonated for you, don't forget to like the video, leave me a comment down below, and hit subscribe if you feel like it. And hopefully I will see you again in another reading really soon. Bye.